guys, welcome to our bi-weekly Z-Log again. We are here at our place in Montana enjoying some time out in the snow. So we're blessed to have the crew of Tanda Malaika out here with us spending some time, and it's a family of 6, and I don't know if you remember, but last year their boat tragically hit a reef out in the South Pacific. And so we were able to sit down with them and ask them a few questions and kind of get the whole story about what happened and kind of what they would do differently and what they learned from the whole experience. So I hope you enjoy our time here, and let's get started.
This week we were privileged to have some dear friends of ours, the Tanda Malaika crew, except the husband, Danny, he's off flying somewhere. But the rest of the family came and saw us, and we decided we'd interview the crew of Tanda Malaika, the ship that ran on the reef in Huahine. And so we got a first-hand experience, what happened there, and lessons learned. And these are great people. We sailed with them, and great crew, and we just wanted them to be able to talk a little bit and for everybody to learn from what they went through, where they're at today, and things they're going through. So with that, I'll introduce everybody. This is Micah. This is Jude. This is Emma. This is the matriarch of the family, Belinda, and this is Aiden. And they've got a bunch more, but they're not here right now. And Danny's obviously flying. So we'll just start off, guys. What are y'all doing now? Where are y'all at, and what are you doing? Belinda?
Well, we're currently living in Bali, and we picked Bali because it was close to where Danny flies and for work, and it's a cheap place to stay, so we can save up for a boat.
Save it for a boat. Are all of y'all living in Bali?
Yeah.
Yeah? Still homeschooling? Everybody's homeschooling?
Yeah.
Jude, you're 20?
Yes.
And Micah, you're 18? And you two are 16? 15. So let's talk a little bit about the incident. Belinda, tell us what happened the day or the night, the events leading up, where y'all were at, what you decided, and the train of thought that went through. We're leaving Moorea, we're going here. Just tell us, that morning you woke up, what was the plan, or the night when you went to bed, what was the plan for the next day, and just kind of go through the whole thing.
Well, we'd made up our sailing plan, and that was to leave early in the morning from Moorea, so that we could, according to the weather, which you can count on sometimes, we were going to sail, straight through to Huahine, and it looked like with the wind that would be able to make it there by about 4 o'clock in the afternoon if we left early in the morning, and so that's what we did. We sailed, but there was not the wind that was predicted, and so we eventually, once we saw that we just weren't getting anywhere, we turned both engines on and tried motoring our way, and we eventually neared Huahine at about 7:30 at night was when the wreck happened, but Danny was up at the helm, and I was downstairs in the galley cooking food, and Jude,
we were both asleep,
and Emma were asleep.
We shared a room.
And Micah was standing across from me in the galley talking, and Aiden was sitting at the salon table kind of working on school stuff or reading, I can't remember, and everything seemed to be going pretty smoothly, and you just sort of always expect that you're going to reach your destination. We had been for 15,000 nautical miles already, and nothing major had ever really gone wrong, and we just expected that it would be that way again.
Right.
Anyway, and we're just sailing along, and all of a sudden we felt the boat jerk, and just heard this really, really intense scraping, crashing, pounding, and I immediately grabbed a hold of the pots on the stove because I thought they would go flying, and the boat lifted up, and it's a Leopard 46 catamaran, so it's a pretty heavy boat, and the whole boat, the port side lifted up at a 45-degree angle, and at that moment the refrigerator and freezer doors, that were latched shut, those flew open. Everything came flying across the whole salon, and everything that was on shelves, and just everything was
across
airborne.
The salon. Across the salon, hit a wall and fell down the stairs.
And at that same time, all the hatches had been open, so right when we slammed back down onto the reef. I mean, you know, huge waves came over and all the hatches just had tons of water pouring inside.
We woke up to a wave coming through our hatch.
And so, when I woke up, I ran, because it's like, we had aft starboard, like, berth. So we ran up through the kitchen, and I ran up there, and I saw everything was everywhere. Because, like, we stow stuff, but it's like a calm sail, so nothing was, like, secure, you know. And so I ran up to the helm station for captain's orders, and I could just see, like, we hadn't yet sustained all the damage that we would, but you could definitely see that we were on a reef.
But after that original wave, when the original wave happened, and like everything went flying, the fridges flew open, everything flew out of the fridges across the boat. The people that were in the galley, Mom, Aiden, and I, we were just like, wow, that was a freakish rogue wave. Like, what the heck was that? We started picking things up, and then another one came. And then we were like, okay, something's really wrong. Yeah, we thought maybe we just, I don't know, I assumed we'd hit something.
You were asleep, and all your hatches were open, and water just came pouring down through there.
So she ran up to the helm, and I went and I was shutting hatches, and then it all happened very, very quickly. And then by the time I had all the hatches shut, it's like there was another wave.
And Danny was on watch. We did have someone on watch at the time.
So when you went up on the helm, what was Danny doing?
At that point, what happened is, so like a wave came and we were on, except for when the time, because we weren't yet far into the reef, so it's like every time a wave came, we were lifted a little bit. And so that time we hadn't lost the rudders or the keels, and so, or the engines. We ended up losing all of them. But so he was still trying to get off, and so we had the jib out. We were both motors going and the jib, and so he was trying to focus, and he had both the charts out trying to figure things, and so he was trying to take us off. And every time a wave came, we would get pushed on more, and then eventually we lost steering. And during this time, I let loose the jib sheets because we didn't want more like things pushing us onto the reef. And so I started furling it. But with every wave, because all I have is like a winch handle to hold on to, you know, and part of the helm, I would get flown. And at one point, I got flown from the helm station to lifelines. And
then at that point, I had come out to the back deck, and I was like looking up at the helm station, asking like, what can I do? And I saw the look of like panic in Emma's eyes, and I was just like, and she had hit the lifelines, and she had injured her foot pretty bad, and so she was kind of like in pain, and the waves were still coming. It was like so chaotic. I also remember that it's pitch black. Yeah, no moon that night. No moon. So it's like you couldn't even see the reef. You couldn't see what was going on, which made it even more. And so Emma, I was just like, Emma, you know what? You come down here. And so she went down and was going into the galley to help, and I went up to the helm station and finished furling the jib. And then Aiden and I, because we didn't fully understand what was happening. It was all just so difficult. It's difficult to take control of the situation. Yeah, when you don't understand. Yeah. And so Aiden and I looked, and like the dinghy was up on its davits, and it had fallen. And I was thinking, all right, well, I mean, if we're on a reef, we're gonna need the dinghy to get off. We don't want to like lose that. And so I was like, Aiden, come help me pull up the dinghy. So we went back and we were pulling up the dinghy, and at that point I started like watching the waves, and every time I could see a wave coming I would yell brace, and so everybody like could grab onto something, you know?
That was the most powerful thing.
So powerful, those waves hitting us, and every time you would like fall over.
How big do y'all think those waves were?
They were taller than the helm station.
Yeah.
As they hit the side of the boat, you know, they
So they were setting waves over the reef, so they were probably 5, 6, 7 feet tall.
Yeah, I think even taller. I think it's so hard to say though, because it was so dark.
And supposedly that night was pretty rough.
It was, and it was just windy, and you couldn't. It was just.
So when all this happened, you guys obviously had your life jackets right there handy.
Actually, that's one of the several lessons that we've learned through this, is that we, you know, you just get so used to everything going so well. After sailing for 2 years, everything was just always safe, you know, and you start becoming lax. And we had just stored all of our life jackets in one of the front lazarettes on the bow. And that was one of the
not a good idea.
Not a good idea. And when we get another boat, that's absolutely something that we will not do. You know, I mean, there were flotation devices on the stern.
We had a couple life jackets.
There were two life jackets. But still, there were 6 of us on the boat. You know, and so that was one of the things. Is I remember saying to someone, you know, we need to get the life jackets, and again, we didn't know if we were actually stuck on a full reef or if we had just hit something and we were just gonna
Slide
off or what, and all these waves breaking over the bow and off, on port side, and so we had to very carefully make our way to the bow and
Well,
open up.
that was after Danny had called Mayday and that
Yeah.
So
we were coming.
But
when did that happen? Was there a decision made by all of you that you needed to call Mayday and abandon ship?
No, it was
And-
Danny.
and-
We were all inside.
We were all
and
trying to take control of the situation
Yeah.
as best we could, trying to
do
do what we could to
just
help the
boat.
situation, and then Danny made that decision.
And then
well, Danny was up at the helm, and he, he could see more clearly what the situation was, and when he realized that we had lost both our keels and our steering, our rudders were gone, and then it seems like somewhere in there the engine stopped.
Yeah, because the sail drives went through the bottom of the boat.
That's right. The sail drives came straight up through the sugar scoops. He came downstairs and into the galley where I was, and he just said, I need to call Mayday. And him being a pilot for 30 years, that's not something that he takes lightly. I mean, and so knowing that was kind of my oh crap moment of, oh boy, we really are in trouble. We do need help, and the thing that really calmed me and the kids, I think, is that he so calmly just took the radio, and he didn't sound panicked at all. He just said, Mayday, Mayday, this is Tanda Malaika. And that is the strangest thing to hear, is your boat's name and your family, you're here on the boat, and this is your home. I mean, we'd sold everything on land. This is our home. And to hear your boat's name, that you usually just call into port saying, hey, we're here, where do you want us to go, or whatever. And this is just a crazy, out-of-the-body experience, hearing Mayday, Mayday, this is Tanda Malaika, it's just unreal.
Were any of y'all scared? I mean, like, petrified scared, or did the adrenaline kick in and you focused on what needed to be done right there?
Well, so I think originally, like, as everything was happening and it was all chaotic, we were all adrenaline, just get everything done, make sure everybody's safe kind of thing. I almost fell off. That was frightening. I feared my life for a second. But then I think once we got to the point where Danny called Mayday and the Coast Guard that was going to come and pick us up in the helicopter told us that they wouldn't be there for what was it, like
an hour and a half.
An hour and a half. And so at that point, I mean, the bilges were filling up. It was getting to the point to where they were like coming just above the floorboards on the starboard side. And so all of us kids, I mean, we couldn't just like stand there and wait. And so we started like manual pumping the bilge and bringing buckets, hauling buckets out. And Danny was telling, he's like, you guys, I mean, there's no point.
But it's like we couldn't stop. It's like, what else?
It's like we can't. And at that point, I think the adrenaline wore off, and we were all just like.
So y'all hit the reef at around 7:30, 7:55, somewhere between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. There was pitch black outside when you hit the reef.
Yeah.
And when you hit the reef, both motors were running, and you had your jib out, your Genoa out, full Genoa, and you were motoring along there on the south. That'd be the southwest side of Huahine. And so a lot of people would say, could you not hear the breaking waves?
Well, so I think a big part of it was that it was really, really windy. The wind had picked up a lot. It was just coming as we were coming around that point.
Right.
And so there were white caps everywhere. And so it's just like you could hear the white caps and the wind, and it
just hard to differentiate.
Yeah.
Plus with both engines running.
Yeah.
Because we were trying to get
we were just trying to get there as quick as possible.
So in that time from 7:30 to 8 o'clock when you hit the reef, then how long before Danny called Mayday? I mean, when you hit the reef, was it 10 minutes, an hour, 30 minutes?
I don't even know. It all blurs
It's
together.
really hard.
It's really hard to tell time. I can't even remember how far apart the waves were because it all happened. I just feel like it went bad so quickly because it's like after we hit something initially, I was like, oh man, that wasn't good. And then the next time it's like, okay, the keels are definitely really damaged. And then the next time the keels are gone. And then the next time there go the rudders and I'm steering.
I pulled up one of the rudders, so I saw the dinghy painter line in the water, and I was thinking, and this was while the engines were still running, and Danny was still trying, like, with every wave to get us off. So I walked back, And I was like, all right, I want to pull that up and so it doesn't get caught in the prop, and so I know we don't screw up the situation even more. And so I pulled it up, and the rudder was on the end of it, like it had been wrapped around the rudder. And I just pulled up the rudder, and I was like, well, that's not what I want.
So by the time the helicopter got there, the boat was probably firmly pretty good on the reef, and so was it still as traumatic by the time the helicopter, did everything kind of calm down? And
I think it was still just
it was pretty steady traumatic.
Because even to like the last like couple days of when we were in Huahine, the boat was still shifting like farther and farther.
Yeah, because with every wave, I mean, we were sitting on the reef, but with every wave that hit our side, we really moved.
It just
really
scraped. You could just hear constant scraping and shuddering, and so it's interesting because so many people asked me to post our GPS coordinates, and I did when we went back to the boat the next day, and people commented that, well, obviously there's a reef there, you can see it on the map, but that's not where we shipwrecked. I mean, that's not where we hit. The reef that we hit, was farther out, but I wish we could know the distance that we traveled from once we actually hit to where we stayed still, because it was quite a ways.
So after the helicopter came and lifted y'all off the ship, y'all all went back to Moorea, or
No.
We were out Huahine.
They took us to Huahine, and they put us up in a hostel, and they were just amazing.
They were really, really.
Let's talk about insurance. Did you guys have insurance on your boat?
Well, the whole 2 years that we were sailing, we had insurance on the boat, but when we got to Galapagos and we're going to make our crossing from Galapagos to Marquesas, our insurance asked us if we had professional crew on board, and we said no, we don't. We just have 6 of us that have been on this.
Didn't there
We're pretty
like 2
professional.
sailors that had already done that same crossing?
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. They said that we told them that we had 6 crew that had been on her for 12,000 miles already, and they said no, they have to be people that have been on it, that have made that crossing, I think twice already or something, I can't remember that. And so since we didn't have that, and we weren't about to hire crew to do that, we felt pretty confident that we could make that crossing just fine.
Which we did.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful crossing.
They dropped us, and they said, when you get to Marquesas, give us a call and we'll put you back on again. And so when we did reach Marquesas, Wi-Fi was really bad, and Danny had tried contacting them, and it was just kind of a hit and miss with them, and so we decided, once we got someplace where the coverage was a little better, or we could get a hold of them, we'd get signed back up again. And we got to Tahiti, and he called them, and they said, okay, they would, what's our sail plan? And so we told them what it was, and they said they'd go ahead and draw up the papers, and then, we'd get signed back on again. And so that's kind of where we were when we hit the reef.
So close.
What was the value of Tanda Malaika roughly?
Probably 350,000, somewhere in there.
And that was all y'all's. I mean, that was your home. That was your life savings. Everything y'all had was in that boat.
Yeah. When we got her, we had used pretty much our savings, whatever, to pay for her. So she was paid for in full, and everything was in her. So I guess a lesson that we could learn from that is just don't sail without insurance, and it's easy for us to say, I mean, we did have insurance the whole time except for that little window, and we should have just not left the dock until we had insurance. And it's easy to say that now, should have, but it's too late, and it's a lesson learned for next time.
Next morning you wake up and you got to go see the wreck. You got to go see it. Is that what happened the next morning?
I didn't.
Yeah, it was interesting because the whole thing is just so real. I think probably I hadn't cried or anything through the whole thing because I was just thinking about I need to protect my babies, but when we were lifted up into the helicopter, looking down on Tanda Malaika and just seeing her so stuck on the reef and feeling like we were just abandoning her, that was just a stab to the heart. And then getting up in the helicopter, Micah and Jude and Aiden were already in there, and just seeing my children looking, just looking like they were in shock, and it was just so heartbreaking, you know. And then flying over Huahine and looking down at the homes, and you're just thinking, you know, all these people are just coming home after a normal day and have no idea that there's a family out on the reef that just lost their home, you know, and everything was just so normal going on the island. And anyway, yeah, when we did wake up the next morning, you know, the first thing we wanted to do was get back to the boat, because we didn't know if she'd still be there. We didn't know what condition she was going to be in, and it was such a tearjerker when we drove around the corner of the mountain and we could see her clear out there on the reef. And in some ways it was such a relief to see her out there, and at the same time it just made you want to burst into tears, because it just looked so wrong.
Yeah.
You know.
So from that time, y'all went forward and you needed to decide whether you could salvage Tanda Malaika, or you had to. How long was it before you realized you had to make that call? How long did it take to make the call that you could salvage it, or you had to abandon it and leave it?
Well, it was kind of
Changed a lot.
It changed a lot. It was like our emotions were a roller coaster through that time, because there were several cruising families that had reached out and helped us that were there at the time.
They're amazing.
They were amazing.
I love the
And
cruising community.
we had
it's
so-
like a big
so much
family.
support.
Even when
Yeah.
we shipwrecked, like 2 guys came out to the boat.
Yeah.
Anyway, they had taken our dinghy and put it up, you know, by the dock, and so we were able to get right into our dinghy and go out to the boat, and we figured we'd be able to go out and assess, look at it, and say, okay, we can either salvage this, or you know, or what the story was going to be. And when we got out there, I think all of us, our hearts just sunk, you know, when we saw that her holes were pretty, just down in the bilges, right, you know, where she'd landed on the car. It was
And
so
fish
broken
swimming
up.
around in the bilge.
Yeah.
So you decided probably within a day or two that you couldn't fix it.
We did decide that. We had someone come out and look at the boat, and it was interesting because, you know, we had one person come out and say, there's not an ice cube's chance in heck that you're going to be able to fix this boat up, you know, compared to what she's worth. And then other cruisers or other people would come out and they'd look at her and they'd say, oh, this is totally fixable, this is totally doable. We heard of this other boat that this happened to, and they were able to fix their boat up. And so it was just this constant, your hopes were raised, your hopes were dashed, you know, and it was just this back and forth all the time. And I remember sitting, because the kids really wanted to know, I mean, just so that they could have some sort of peace of mind, okay, what are we going to do, you know, and one day would say, no, we'll definitely be able to get her fixed up, you know, it's just going to take time, it's going to take money, we're going to all have to put a lot of work in, and we all decided we'll do whatever we need to do, we'll spend day after day working on her if we need to, and then a couple days later would say, guys, they're going to have to take her out and sink her, you know, and we're also looking at the expense of it all, and
Bloody expensive.
and you know, it was going to cost $25,000 just to get her off the reef. And at the same time, we had people texting us and saying, all you have to do is put barrels under her and try and float her, and just all these suggestions, but I don't think anyone really realized how far we'd been pushed onto the reef. So it was just this yo-yo of emotions for pretty much the whole 10 days
We had
that we
so
were
many
hauling
people
stuff
helping
off.
us though.
Yeah.
But we did decide immediately we needed to get all diesel off of her, all oil that we could, and so that was our very first project. You know, was just to fill jerry cans, go empty them, fill jerry cans, and that's what we did. And so we sold diesel very cheap to any cruisers that were in the area.
So
And-
the cruising community really came together and helped y'all strip the boat
So-
down.
Absolutely.
It was amazing, and they were like letting us
On-
sleep on their
And
boats.
on the night that we shipwrecked, a few cruisers came out and trekked across the reef in the
middle
night.
of the night
Not
to
quite
see if we
middle,
were okay.
Yeah.
Like as we were waiting for the helicopter.
And I was busy I was in my room packing my bag for the helicopter, and I looked out and I saw their lights, and just that was a comfort, you know.
Yeah.
So
And
It
then
was amazing.
there was this boat, Geniet Leva, that they let us stay on their boat. Geniet Leva
Take
and
over
Volcara. We took over both of their boats. The nicest people.
It was a great community. And
Yeah.
so once you decided to strip the boat down, you was able to have a garage sale and recoup some funds back from selling stuff. And we got a great freezer out of the deal. And you sold, engines and generators and sails and anything that you could sell, radio, everything on that boat you stripped down and sold. And you did say you had a $25,000 bill to get the boat off the reef and clean up the fiberglass and the reef and all that stuff.
Our daughter, Kira, who was in Idaho, she had been with us clear through Tuamotus, and so she had just left us, and she felt so hopeless, because she so badly wanted to be there helping, but it was chaotic enough, and so she just decided on her own that she was going to start a GoFundMe to try help raise the money to get the boat off the reef or to help get her back floating or something, and so she was just such a sweetheart, and she dealt with all of that without us, knowing. She just started the whole thing, and a few days into it, someone said, well, why don't you just have her towed to Riot, I think was what it was, and that was going to cost another $20,000 or something like that, and that they could for sure pull her up there and fix the fiberglass, but what ended up finally happening is that a gentleman on Huahine decided that, he would like to take her and pull her up onto land and make a home out of it on land.
There's lots of critics. There's lots of people out there that just hated on y'all and they hate on us, but they think you're an idiot. They don't think you know what you're doing.
It makes the healing process so much easier.
Yeah,
really. I love it.
But the reality of it is, staying away from the navigation, the chart issues. What do y'all take away from that, and what should you have done different, looking back on it now?
Well, there's several things. One is the life jacket thing that we spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
We'd keep the life jackets at the stern. Two is that rather than leaving early in the morning and just being confident that we'll be able to make it there by dark, it would have been smarter to leave in the evening and
like most people do.
And
most people do that.
And sail, through the night and arrive there daylight. And the other thing is just keeping a wider berth between us and the island.
And I think that something that we will do in the future is, during the day we usually just have one person at the helm station. I think as soon as it gets dark, it's important to have two people, just have two sets of eyes, open out. And we only had Danny up there, which we were fully confident in his capabilities, but it's just,
we'd rather have anybody up there.
As a crew, you're all responsible because y'all were all a crew,
absolutely.
and so when y'all left Moorea, maybe y'all, and I'm just Monday morning quarterbacking, but sat down. What's our path here?
Right.
How bad? Where are we going? What's our backup plan? If we don't get there in the daytime, what are we going to do? And how close are we going to be off the shore when we pass that? And if each one of y'all knew that and had a meeting, that might have prevented.
Might have made a difference.
Might have made a difference.
Communication is such an important thing sailing. I'm so grateful that we had no extra guests on the boat when we shipwrecked, because we all know how we react in situations. We all know how we work together, and without that, it would have been way more difficult.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you guys are in Bali. You're saving for another boat right now.
Yeah.
And you think you've got how long till you get another boat?
Well, this one won't be all paid for. We'll have to finance this one. So saving up for a down payment, we're really hoping that, really wishful thinking, we're hoping that we'll be able to be in one by the end of 2018.
Good. A lot of our subscribers out there, a lot of people out there, you think they made bad choices. They could have made better choices. We can all make better choices. It's happened to any one of us that you set off with a thing in your head and you think it's going to be this way, and it doesn't turn out that way. And next thing you know, you're on a reef, or a lot of other bad things happen. So judging somebody on the decisions they made is useless. So everybody's got an opinion, and we all know what those are like.
Especially when you weren't there.
Especially when you weren't there, and you weren't there that morning, and you don't know what happened. These are good people. We've sailed with them, and did they make some bad decisions? Sure. Did they know that those decisions were going to be bad when they set off that morning? No, like none of us. We don't know what the outcome of events are going to be, but we can always plan better and always learn. And that's one thing this crew's done. They've learned a lot about what they should have done right and what they should have done, what they did wrong and what they would do next time. And that's what's important here, is taking the responsibility and moving on and becoming a better sailor and better people on the ocean. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I mean, yeah.
Do y'all want to add anything?
Y'all want to add anything?
I was just I'm really grateful for all the cruisers that helped us.
There's so many cruisers that helped us, and I kind of hesitate to even start mentioning names because I don't want to leave anyone out.
Yeah.
But the people that just made such a huge impact on us were Geniet Lewe. They just took us in and took care of us. Janet is a ER nurse, and she would doctor our wounds every single night.
Every night, she'd have a line of patients with all her scrapes and
our cuts from the reef and everything, and she wasn't just a nurse to us; she was like a mother to us.
She made sure we all ate food too.
And she helped us emotionally too. And Dave, I mean, they were just absolutely amazing. And then Beach Fleet crew they spent hours and hours helping us. And Terrapin, Makara,
Huahine, Son of Moondance,
JD.
Yeah. So many more too.
Yeah.
It's just incredible how the sailing community is just like one big family. You know, if one person's hurt, everybody comes in to help. You know, so many people that we didn't even know would come up to us and put their arms around us and say, "Man, we've been so close to doing that," and you know, it just offered so much encouragement.
It's a great community. Where can we find you guys? Where can we find you in social media? Is there a place where we can read about you, watch you? Is there anything that y'all have?
Well, we have a blog called Adventures of a Tribe.
AdventuresOfATribe.
.wordpress.com. So yeah, you can find us
You
there.
guys can click on the link, Adventures of a Tribe. Renee will have that in the edits. And
Is the GoFundMe still active?
No, it's not. No, and we're doing fine. The money that was raised from the GoFundMe helped us to pay for getting Tanda Malaika off the reef, and then getting us to out of there, and to getting our visas to be able to get settled there in Indonesia, so that we could.
Really grateful.
That was amazing.
I think the best thing, the main thing to take away is nobody got hurt. I mean, physically everybody was fine.
And that's what we said the whole way through. Even as it was happening, we just kept looking at each other and like, we are fine. It's gonna be fine. We're gonna be okay.
That was the way we reassured ourselves. We reassured each other.
And when the rescue crew came and got us, the guy that like rappelled down to the boat and brought us back up, he was like, usually we're taking up body bags, and so.
And thank goodness
you
for him
guys should
too.
feel very lucky. Yeah.
No kidding.
And none of you
Shout
have
out to that whole Coast Guard
Coast
crew.
Guard was amazing.
And the crew at the airport, they gave Mike pants.
Ah, yeah, I wasn't wearing pants for the whole thing.
what was he wearing?
Swimsuit, a bathing suit and a t-shirt, and so we got there and I was freezing, and this guy like brought up these like oversized men's shorts, and I put them on.
So that's a lesson not to sleep naked on your boat.
Yeah.
I'd be screwed, guys. I'd be out there. Hey, we're wrecking.
So none of you have issues going back out on a boat or sailing again, really? Do you?
I'm hesitant.
Are you?
I just felt it was like my way to get away from anxiety and like anger and stuff was sailing, and now I think it's going to be a little bit more associated with it. Like even being on like just little ferries, if there are big jolts, I'm like screaming. Well, I don't scream, but I was like bloody hell, and like I grab onto people because it's like it just feels too familiar to something that's tragic.
It's a really traumatizing experience.
It really.
You'd be surprised how
It pretty much sucks.
screwed up that kid.
We definitely all are a bit nervous about it, but I was able to go out sailing with some friends of ours in Australia, and the first night was hard because we went straight into an overnight passage, and that first night I was like, I don't know. I was really, really nervous about it, but and so I couldn't go to sleep. I couldn't get myself to go to sleep. I kept checking the chart and making sure everyone was up there and looking along the coastline, but eventually I was able to just kind of.
So that's where, and that's a good point. That's where you get back into the whole crew having some ownership in the plan.
Yeah.
You know where you're going. You know where the captain's going. You know what his thoughts are. So if there's any doubt before you set sail, I don't like this plan. It's just too close to some risks, or not close enough, or
It's going to be interesting when we get our next boat, because for me, I don't feel like I'm going to be afraid. I don't feel like I'm going to hesitate at all. But it may be completely different when we actually set sail again. But
we all love it too much to stop.
Yeah,
like, it's not something that this is like. It's just the best thing in the whole world. So
yeah.
Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you. So again, thanks for watching, and join us next week as we wrap up our season. We spend some time touring Australia, and we clean up and empty out our boat and say a final farewell to our beloved monohull. And if you like our channel, go ahead and subscribe and leave a comment. Thanks. Bye.
Be sure to click on the Z below to subscribe and tell your friends.